Do you ever feel vulnerable? If you don't know what this is, vulnerability is the exposure to possibly being attacked or harmed physically or emotionally. The TED Talk I will be talking about today is the importance of vulnerability. 3 things that stood out to me that the speaker spoke about was that the sense of worthiness, courage, and connection is the 3 main points of vulnerability, and we have to constantly feel vulnerable in our lives to feel a sense of worthiness for ourselves and be more comfortable. The speaker had mentioned in order to fully know who we really are and to really have that courage to feel worthiness is to feel vulnerable. And feeling worthy enough for a connection is very hard for some, if not many, because we are scared to feel a disconnect with friendships, relationships, or just a family member. And from this TED Talk, I realized that people who are constantly feeling vulnerable are actually the ones who are the most compassionate, the most worthy of themselves, and they have the most courage. We go through our day-to-day lives thinking vulnerability is not okay and not normal, but in reality we need it. And the speaker mainly did a research on what vulnerability actually was and how it could help us in our lives. And her research surprisingly came out to be that we have to always think of the worst to come, and the way we do that is feeling vulnerable. And most of us don't think that's normal, and we don't necessarily like to think of the worst, but in order for us to grow and to learn from things, we have to feel some sense of vulnerability to grow from it. But I did want to talk about something that really kind of drew me in, and that I could relate to and most people can relate to, is she said that when people bring up a conversation about love or disconnect, people oftentimes switch the conversation straight to the opposite, like disconnect or heartbreak. And I could fully relate to that, because when people ask me for advice for any like relationships or anything like that, I definitely do switch it straight to heartbreak, because they need to understand that heartbreak is going to happen. And yes, you may think that your relationship is good, but you also have to be vulnerable to the situation that, okay, well, something could happen along the lines of our relationship. So I do think we always have to look at the worst. But the last thing is, in order to truly know who we are and to grow from things, we need to understand and realize that vulnerability is how we live our life, and it is part of our living. Thank you.